Welcome to Must Have Missed It, the podcast about how every version of James hasn't seen any movies.
Even in a universe where we have hot dogs for fingers, I probably still wouldn't have seen any movies.
What's that famous movie you're always quoting? The one you and your omniversal friends cannot stop referencing. There's a really good chance James has never seen it.
I have so many goals I haven't finished, dreams I've never followed. I'm living my worst me.
But that's why we're here. I'm forcing James to watch a whole bunch of movies he probably should have seen already, regardless of universe.
I may have seen them all in another life. It's just a statistical inevitability.
I'm Josh, and here I can do anything because I am so bad at everything. And this is my co-host.
I'm James, and I'm an omniversal being with unimaginable power. An agent of pure chaos with no real motives or desires. Jobu Tupaki.
You're just making up noises. Whatever your universal desires are, subscribe to the YouTube channel and the podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast platforms exist in your universe. Make sure you follow us on TikTok where we're there, doing nothing.
Yeah.
Follow us on Instagram at Must Have Missed It, and follow us on Twitter at Must Have Missed It, and send us your emails at musthavemissedit@gmail.com, and also make sure you join the Discord. James, what Universal movie are we talking about today?
I thought A24 made it.
Yeah, it was A24. That's, I guess, multiversal movie.
I catch your drift. We are talking about everything. Everywhere, all at once.
All at once, so simultaneously. What did you know about this movie going into it?
Nada. My first exposure to it was when you showed me the trailer a few months ago.
Yeah.
It was not on my radar at all. I had no idea this movie was a thing at all. If you didn't show it to me, I would have never found it.
It doesn't really surprise me. So why did we pick this movie?
Well, we did have a plan to do another movie this month honoring Black History. We just came off of Judas and the Black Messiah. Great film, very heavy.
Yes, very heavy.
And to be completely honest, we weren't in a place for heavy now.
Yeah, heavy was looking pretty tough for us this month. As we've discussed previously, we have some mental health issues from time to time, and this was a month where they really crept up on us, and it was just a little hard for us to focus on doing another movie. We were going to do Fruitvale Station.
Yeah.
To be 100% transparent. Transparent's the one. But that was the plan, but we decided that we needed something a little more light, joyful. So this was a movie we had on the books for season 2, and I talked James into just, let's just go ahead and do this one now.
Yeah, this one was in the bank, like Josh said. Movie we knew we were going to get around to. And without getting into a lot of it after the last couple weeks, we discussed it and thought, let's do something fun, lighthearted, easier than Fruitvale Station.
Yeah.
So that's why we chose it.
That's why we're here. On the how have you not seen this movie meter? I would probably put this at a 1 or a 2.
Okay.
I can't throw in shade at James for a movie that came out less than a year ago.
Right.
I can't be super surprised he hasn't seen this movie. Again, it's not, this movie did very well for what it was, but it's not the kind of movie that gets a lot of major marketing push. There wasn't $100 million ad campaign behind this movie, so I'm not surprised you hadn't really heard of it before I showed you the trailer. But it's a movie that I've been wanting to see for a really long time, and when I finally saw it, I was like, this is, I think, kind of the movie that would really push us in the right direction mentally. So let's do this movie instead.
Yeah, I think on average it probably takes me about 20 years to see a movie, so I think I'm doing pretty good that I've seen this already.
Not too bad. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Writer-director team Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, more commonly known as Daniels, began working on this film way back in 2010 after they were introduced to the concept of modal realism, which is a philosophical view that all possible worlds are basically as real as the actual world. After completing their 2016 debut film, Swiss Army Man, they went to work getting this film made. It was originally envisioned as a Jackie Chan-led movie with Michelle Yeoh in a supporting role as Chan's wife. Chan's character was first conceived as a college professor with undiagnosed ADHD, which Daniel Kwan was diagnosed while they were making this movie with ADHD, so the storyline was kind of personal to him. When Chan was unable to commit to the film, it was reworked to make Yeoh's character the lead and to change her background. The cast for this film includes Michelle Yeoh as Evelyn, a laundromat owner who is dissatisfied with her own life but may be destined for greater things. Ke-Huy Quan as Waymond, Evelyn's goofy and seemingly worthless husband. Stephanie Hsu as Joy/Jobu, Waymond and Evelyn's daughter who has a hard time connecting with her mom. James Hong as Gong Gong, Evelyn's domineering father. Jamie Lee Curtis as Deidre Beidra, a possibly racist IRS agent. Jenny Slate as Debbie the dog mom, a laundromat customer. Tally Medell as Becky, Joy's good friend. Biff Whiff as Rick, a laundromat customer with a thing for Evelyn. Harry Shum Jr. as Chad, a hibachi chef with a secret. Music legend and film composer Randy Newman as Raccacoonie.
Yes. Let's go.
Let's go. The idea for a multiversal action movie was fairly novel when the Daniels first started work on this project, but by the time Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was released in 2018, they were worried that either everyone already had or would eventually beat them to the punch on their multiversal idea. Daniel Kwan said he was also frustrated that Rick and Morty Season 2 used many of the ideas that they had thought were original. To his point, the same year that this movie came out, which was way back in 2022, so last year, Marvel also released Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which is mid at best and not really worth talking about. The previous year, they had released another Spider-Man movie that was tied into the multiverse. So you can understand the Daniels being kind of worried that their ideas would be played out by the time their movie finally hit theaters. Awkwafina was the original actor cast to play Joy, but she dropped out due to scheduling conflicts in January 2020, just before filming started, and was replaced with Stephanie Hsu, who is fantastic in her dual role. Ke-Huy Quan was basically retired from acting in the early 2000s. He had given up due to a lack of quality opportunities. After seeing 2018's Crazy Rich Asians, also starring Michelle Yeoh, Quan began believing that there might actually be decent roles for Asian actors and decided to make a comeback. When he agreed to play the role of Waymond, the lawyer who negotiated his contract was Chunk himself, Jeff Cohen, proving that Goonies really do stick together.
No way.
Yeah. Chunk negotiated his contract. Yeah, it's wild.
We live in that universe. Just saying.
That's wild shit. Independent film juggernaut A24 was like, yeah, we'll pay for another movie by the guys that did the Farting Corpse movie, and agreed to finance and distribute the $14 million budgeted film with Anthony and Joe Russo, directors of Community turned Marvel Phase 3 architects, on board to produce. The film was shot over 38 days, with most of the filming taking place on sets built in an actual office building in Simi Valley that used to be a Bank of America office. Additional filming took place in Chinatown and DC stages in LA's Arts District. Filming finished just as that COVID thing, whatever COVID is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Something about COVID was popping off. The costuming for this movie took a fuck ton of work. Joy/Jobu appears in 27 different outfits in the movie. Evelyn wears 36 different outfits, and Wayman wears 11. Jobu was supposed to be shot wearing the Elvis costume, the scene where she gets shot. It was supposed to happen in the Elvis costume. But because of budget and time constraints, they could only afford one of those costumes, which when they got it didn't even fit her. They had to resize it to make it fit her. So costume designer Shirley Carrata was trying to be practical and suggested a few other alternate outfits that would be cheaper to reproduce that they could use in that scene instead, including the pro wrestling gear and the salsa-inspired outfit. Daniels liked the idea so much that they decided to rework the sequence, and stunt coordinator Timothy Ulick added stunts like the pile driver to take advantage of the new fits. The fight choreography was done by self-taught YouTube martial arts lovers Andy and Brian Lee. This was their first major Hollywood gig, and they were tasked with figuring out how to make scenes like the butt plug fight work and be both stylish and appropriately silly. I gotta say, they succeeded.
Yeah.
The filming process was quite rushed, with very little time for rehearsal. Stunts and fight scenes were often coordinated on or just before the day of shooting, and fight scenes were shot very quickly. Being a movie that existed in multiple universes, but also being made on a $14 million budget, required a lot of footage to be shot in a very short amount of time. Luckily, once COVID shut down Hollywood, they had a lot of time to make all that footage work. So that was fortunate. They spent 11 months editing, reworking, and rewriting scenes to keep dramatic and emotional continuity. Entire universes were cut out of the film, requiring earlier and or later scenes to be altered to keep the story coherent. Over 40 minutes of the film were left on the cutting room floor. The score was composed by experimental American band Sun Lux, whose members Ryan Lott, Ian Chang, and Rafiq Bhatia were asked to approach the score as individuals rather than as a group. They spent 2 to 3 years crafting the music for this film. The soundtrack is comprised of 49 individual tracks and has a runtime over 2 hours. The album was released on March 25th, 2022 to positive critical response. The film premiered at South by Southwest Film Festival on March 11th, 2022, about 2 years after shooting wrapped. It opened nationwide in the U.S. on April 8th, 2022, and then in the United Kingdom on May 13th. And most of the Middle East never got it all because of the gay stuff. This film has been a success by pretty much every measure. It grossed $72 million in the U.S. and Canada, plus another $34.5 million from other territories to become the first A24 film to ever cross the $100 million threshold. So it's obviously the top earning A24 movie in history.
Hey.
Good job. The immediate critical reaction to this movie was very positive. The discourse around this movie has become much more varied in the months since its release. There are very vocal minorities on both ends of the love-hate spectrum who claim that it's either basically trash or it's the best movie ever made. It's neither of those things.
Yeah, I think it falls somewhere in the...
Yeah, it's definitely not on either end of that spectrum. I think it's an amazing movie personally, and I'll probably always remember the first time I saw this movie. This movie hit for me really hard, so I'll never forget the first time I saw it. Also, at the same time, many people, myself included, have valid criticisms of certain aspects of the film, and I know that this movie is not going to land with every audience as hard as it might try. But that didn't stop it from racking up the nominations. It received 11 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, Best Original Screenplay for the Daniels, Best Directing for the Daniels, Best Costume Design for Shirley Carrata, Best Film Editing for Paul Rogers, Best Original Score for Sun Lux, Best Original Song This Is a Life by Ryan Lott, David Byrne, and Mitski, which is fucking terrible, and I do not understand how this was one of the best songs from a movie in this year. So, weak year for movie songs, I guess. Best Actress in a Leading Role for Michelle Yeoh. Best Actress in a Supporting Role for Jamie Lee Curtis and also for Stephanie Hsu. And Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Ki-Hu Kwan.
Let me just say, out of all of those, if this doesn't get best editing, like...
Yeah, I don't understand what this category exists for.
Like a lot of those, like they should win, but they better get that one.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a movie that has a sequence that basically has a one cut per frame.
Yeah.
Edit for a good 30 plus
Talking
seconds
about where
of this
Evelyn's
movie.
going through all the
through all the Evelyns.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about hundreds of cuts within seconds of footage. I mean, it's
and just little seamless shit, like when Jobu and Evelyn are getting ready to fight, and they're just transitioning through, like, okay, now they're a prisoner and a guard,
mm-hmm.
and just that, we'll get into it, but wow.
It also received 10 BAFTA nominations: Best Film, Best Original Screenplay, Best Direction, Best Special Visual Effects, Best Original Score, Best Editing, Best Casting for Sarah Hallie Finn, Best Supporting Actress for Jamie Lee Curtis, Best Supporting Actor for Ki-Hu Kwan, and Best Actress for Michelle Yeoh. How many did it win? Well, we don't know yet.
Right. Hasn't happened.
The BAFTAs have already happened in your timeline, but they have not happened in our universe. So I hope it wins all the awards. But enough about this movie. What is this movie about? The film opens with a reflection of the Wangs happily singing karaoke before we find Evelyn at the table sorting through receipts. Wayman wants to talk to her about something, but he knows she's too busy to listen, so he asks if they can talk later. Evelyn is on edge because there's still so much to do before Gong Gong's party tonight. We get a close-up of the divorce papers Wayman is holding when Evelyn walks away to let their daughter Joy into the apartment. Joy has brought her girlfriend Becky to help take care of Gong Gong, while Joy goes with Evelyn to help translate during their IRS audit appointment. Evelyn is too scared of what her father thinks to allow him to find out that Joy is gay, so she tells Joy and Becky to stay home while Gong Gong goes with them to the IRS appointment. Joy attempts to introduce Gong Gong to Becky, but she can't remember the Cantonese word for girlfriend, so Evelyn butts in and calls Becky Joy's good friend. Joy gets pissed and leaves with Becky, having an awkward goodbye with Evelyn. Evelyn, Wayman, and Gong Gong go to the IRS office. On the elevator, Wayman becomes Alpha Wayman and writes down a set of instructions for Evelyn to follow when she gets into her meeting. Deidre Bobiedra, the IRS agent in charge of their case, is giving the Wongs to business. Evelyn decides to follow Alpha Wayman's instructions, and she's pulled halfway into a different reality. Alpha Wayman explains that he's a different version of her husband from an alternate universe. He spent a long time looking for a version of Evelyn who could take down a great multiversal evil, and he thinks that she's the one. Evelyn's focus is being split between two realities, and she can't keep track of everything. Alpha Wayman tells her to be ready to fight, and Deirdre gives them until 6 p.m. to bring back their tax info corrected. Feeling pressured and misunderstanding the situation, Evelyn punches Deirdre, who calls security. Wayman shows Evelyn the divorce papers, and she's shocked. Wayman starts to explain himself when Alpha Wayman takes over again, using his fanny pack to dispatch the security guards. He and Evelyn flee as we get our introduction to Jobu Tupaki in a different reality, who seems to be searching for a certain version of Evelyn as well. She realizes she's close, and she hops into the main reality. Alpha Wayman explains the concept of verse jumping to Evelyn and fills her in on where he's from. In his universe, Evelyn created verse jumping, but she was murdered by Jobu Tupaki. Evelyn is not interested in saving the multiverse, and it's not until Alpha Wayman starts quoting Story of a Girl that Evelyn seems to be on board. They are attacked by Deirdre, and Wayman attempts to verse jump, but loses his headset and gets trapped by Deirdre behind a cabinet, the filing cabinet. Yeah. Evelyn attempts to take on Deirdre herself, but her jump fails, and Alpha Wayman loses faith and bails on her. Evelyn and Wayman attempt to flee, but Evelyn is forced to confront Deirdre. She finally manages to make the jump, turning into literal Michelle Yeoh and handling Deidre. Evelyn tells Wayman that she just saw what her life was like without him, and it was fucking great. Rough thing to say to your spouse. Alpha Wayman comes back and explains that every time you verse jump, your brain kind of leaks, so you'll learn how to treat that. It'll be fine. She says she would like to stay in the universe where she's a movie star, and Alpha Wayman goes ballistic on her. The results of that could be worse than death. Evelyn doesn't understand what could be worse than death until Alpha Wayman explains what Evelyn did to Alpha Joy. Evelyn fades back into Michelle Yeohverse, and when she comes to, she's being handcuffed by police who tase Alpha Wayman back into his universe. But even worse than the police are there for Evelyn and Wayman. It's Juju Tubooty, dressed as Elvis and walking a pig on a leash. She bends reality to her will as she easily kills all of the police, and Evelyn realizes that the great evil Wayman was referring to was actually her daughter from another universe. Evelyn tries to verse jump to gain power, but she jumps into a universe where everyone has hot dogs instead of fingers. It's not a very effective power set. Jobu shows Evelyn the thing she's been working on. It's a bagel with everything. All her hopes and dreams, all her report cards, every last breed of dog, every personal ad on Craigslist, sesame, poppy seed, salt. It's the recipe for a nihilism bagel. Evelyn nearly takes a big old bite, but she's saved at the last minute by Alpha Gong Gong, who also revives Alpha Wayman. Alpha Wayman gives Evelyn the worst pep talk of all time, and Jobu attacks the Alphaverse versions of Gong Gong and Wayman. Joy wakes up in the hallway with no idea how she got there, and Wayman opens the door for her. Evelyn, worried about Jobu possessing Joy again, tapes her to the chair and attempts poorly to explain what's happening. She compares them to puppets, but then the analogy finally hits her. It's just like that movie, Raccacoonie, with the raccoon that sits on the chef's head and helps him cook food. Joy and Evelyn both laugh, and Gong Gong calls Evelyn over. It's Alpha Gong Gong again, and he orders Evelyn to kill Joy so that Jobu can't take over her body in this world. She can't do it, so Alpha Gong Gong pulls a gun on the family. Evelyn searches for a useful alternate universe, going through a series of jumps before she discovers a sex dungeon hidden behind Gong Gong. The trio escapes into the sex dungeon, and Alpha Gong Gong calls her back up. They throw gas into the vents to smoke out Evelyn, but Evelyn verse jumps into blind singer Evelyn, and later into sign spinner Evelyn, and she takes out the goons. As they attempt to flee, they're attacked by Debbie the dog mom, wielding her baby Johnny as a weapon. Evelyn taps into the skills of Hibachi Chef Evelyn and takes out Debbie. Meanwhile, Hibachi Chef Evelyn is in danger of losing her hours to Chad. It's unfortunate. He has a dope hat, has a raccoon tail coming out the back of it. It's pretty sweet. While fighting another thug, Evelyn loses her abilities when she's whacked in the head. She verse jumps and fights off the butt plug dudes, but she's struggling to keep it all together. Alpha Gong Gong tries to take Evelyn out with a grenade, but she escapes and keeps fighting. Alpha Gong Gong tries to take Evelyn out with a grenade. Oh, but she keeps fighting. I already said that. Alpha Wayman makes his final appearance before Jobu kills the version of him in the Alpha universe. Evelyn attempts to confront Jobu, but her brain is broken, so she vomits spectacularly before collapsing. Roll credits. Good movie.
Yep. That's it. That's the whole movie. That's the end.
She comes to as Michelle Yeoh Evelyn initially, but keeps jumping between Evelyns, discovering Raccacoonie and ratting on Chad. Boo. Why are you going to do that to Raccacoonie, Evelyn? That's fucked up.
It's fucking Raccacoonie. Show some respect.
And she also runs out on hot dog finger Deidre. She arrives back in her universe, and Jobu confronts Evelyn. Evelyn says that she doesn't care about the bagel. She just wants her joy back. And Jobu informs her that every version of Joy is Jobu Tupaki. Evelyn insists that she's different from Jobu and decides that she's going to go back to her life and be happy. Jobu shows her the bagel and explains why she has been looking for Evelyn. She wants someone who sees what she sees and feels what she feels, and that someone is Evelyn. Now things get extra crazy, which is an accomplishment for this movie, which is fucking bizarre to begin with. Evelyn tells Deirdre to shut up when she calls about the audit, tells everyone that nothing matters, and signs the divorce papers. Yo versus Evelyn taunts Yo versus Waymond about the lackluster life they would have had together. The Evelyn that died in the movie starring Yo versus Evelyn stabs Waymond with a shard of glass. Deirdre shows up with police to seize the Wong's home and business. Hot Dog Finger Deirdre is tearfully leaving Hot Dog Finger Evelyn. Raccacoonie is being carried away in a cage as Chad pleads for the authorities to not take him away. Evelyn grabs a bat and shatters the laundromat window. The bagel is taking hold of Evelyn in all universes and she collapses. When she comes to, she's a rock. She has a conversation with her rock daughter, and you're wondering how this movie gets any weirder, but you're also wondering why you're crying about a captioned conversation between two rocks.
Right.
Jobu admits that she didn't build the bagel to destroy the multiverse, but to escape it through death. She's been looking for the Evelyn, or the version of Evelyn that would walk into the bagel with her. Evelyn looks back and sees Waymond talking to Deirdre, who tells the police to let Evelyn go. Waymond tells her that everything is going to be okay, and they have another week to prepare for their meeting, and Evelyn doesn't understand what Waymond did to get Deirdre to back off. I just talked to her, he says. Yo versus Waymond gives his "This is how I fight" monologue, while the gut stabs Waymond gives his "Please be kind" speech, but Evelyn has decided to choose violence. Then she sees a Waymond montage and decides to choose kindness. Jobu summons the bagel to the IRS building and decides to walk in. Evelyn tries to stop her, but Alpha Gong Gong tells everyone to try to stop Evelyn from stopping Jobu. They all shoot at her, but she goes full Neo before turning the bullets into googly eyes and sending them all back. Evelyn is aggressively, perhaps violently, kind to everyone she encounters on her way to reach Jobu, especially the BDSM guy. Joy jumps on Chad's head and they attempt to chase down Raccacoonie, but they come up short. Evelyn is almost to Joy when she's caught by Alpha Gong Gong. She goes in on him for not trying to stop her from leaving and tells him that she won't make the same mistake that he did, and he relents. Joy is ready to give in to the bagel, but Evelyn is going to fight for her daughter. But Joy is tired of hurting all the time, so she asks Evelyn to let her go. Evelyn agrees, but not before she has her say. Hot Dog Finger Evelyn and Hot Dog Finger Deirdre have a lovely moment. Fucking strange, but
so weird.
Lovely. Evelyn puts Chad on her back and they save Raccacoonie. Gong Gong seems happy for Joy. Rock Evelyn follows Rock Joy off the cliff. Rego Deirdre and Evelyn share a laugh. Yo versus Evelyn and Waymond decide to take a chance on themselves. Joy comes back through the bagel. This is awkward, right? But that's okay because nothing matters. The Wongs head back for their IRS meeting and things are better. Not perfect, but better. Also, Becky needs to grow her hair. The end. Quotes from the notes. What you got?
Oh, there's so many. So I just want to shout out Jamie Lee Curtis's screaming after she turns into like the pro wrestling version. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. It is just
It's hilarious.
I have no words. It's fantastic. If you don't step it up, I'm gonna have to give one of your shifts to Chad, and then Chad like winks at the camera. That was
with the raccoon tail poking out of the back of his hat. Like, should have caught on then.
Right, like first watch, I'm like, weird hat. Second watch, I'm like, oh shit, Raccacoonie. Dude, they threw in the Mortal Kombat uppercut sound when I think it's during like the Pinky Kung Fu scene.
Yeah.
And Evelyn hits the uppercut, and it's like the sharp, like shing, like the Mortal Kombat sound. It was so
Dope.
cool. All the creative jumping methods throughout the movie are just really, really, really fun. You have Wayman eating the already been chewed gum off a table. Like,
Yeah.
who would fucking do that? The paper cuts,
Yeah.
which was, for me, really hard to watch.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
You have the scene where all of the, where Gong Gong's like, send everybody that has a duplicate.
Yeah, and they're all
Trying to do the thing. So you got the one woman singing Ave Maria, the one guy taking a photocopy of his ass, the other guy electrocuting himself, one woman ripping her hair out of her head. Yeah, it's wild shit. You got Evelyn eating the marble frog or whatever.
Yeah. Where she has to profess her love to Deidre while she's trying to kill her.
Did you just pee yourself? Great job. You just peed yourself.
And then, I mean, the butt plug
trophy.
That's
wild.
Yeah. So just all that shit was just really fun. Oh no, Craig, fuck.
I meant to write that down. I did not write it down, but I meant to write it down.
That's the one that I was telling you. I was like, man, every time I look at this and think about this, I just cannot stop myself from cracking up. If it were any other name, maybe it doesn't hit. But man, that was good. You can come with me and you can reach your full potential. Or you can stay here and I want to lie here.
You can come with me. You can either come with me and live up to your ultimate potential, or you can lie here and live with the consequences. I want to lie here.
Thank you. Yeah, that was great. I really like the little neck twitch that Jobu does to kind of change channels through the universes. Just like you only see it once or twice in the movie, but I just thought it was a really cool
visual signifier.
Showing her going through the different universes. I don't know. I think anything else maybe I'll leave for award season. Oh, no. There was the scene where Jobu and Evelyn are talking and Wayman's about to come through the room and she had just punched her in the face. She falls on the couch and he comes in. He's like, "What are you doing?" They're like, "We're practicing karaoke." And Jobu just goes, "La la la." Just really like that delivery of that, and just her kind of just that whole
the drollness in general.
Yeah. Just Jobu throughout this movie is just fantastic with her little quips.
Yeah.
What do you got?
What is gross necklaces?
That was
so
great.
funny. Not unless you can help me with my taxes. What is gross necklaces? That's so fucking funny.
That's good.
The scene where Wayman's about to eat, where he pulls out the chapstick and he's slowly opening it, and the guard's like, "Okay, whatever you're thinking about doing, don't do it." That you can either come with me. That line. The first time Evelyn hears the name Jobu Chapaki, you're just making up sounds. When Evelyn talks about staying in the Michelle Yeoh universe as the actress, just Wayman, shut it down. It just goes off on her. It's so funny. Juju Chabuti, Jobu Tabaki, and Juju Chewbacca.
Juju Chewbacca is
especially
great.
Juju Chewbacca. That's fucking fantastic. That's so funny. But you hear you're capable of anything because you're so bad at everything line. I love it. When Alpha Gong Gong pulls the gun, Wayman, I think it's time for a family discussion.
Yes.
That's so funny. the scene with Evelyn dancing, when the same scene when Gong Gong pulls the gun and she starts dancing to be like Jobu. It's so fucking uncoordinated, and it's fantastic physical acting because it's Michelle Yeoh, who is like one of the most graceful people on the planet. So you know, like it's real acting right there going on. It's so good. And I'll get into this one in award season, so I'll skip that. And then the in another life, I would have really enjoyed doing laundry and taxes with you line. Like that line really hits. Yeah.
I forgot one. I can't be the worst. What about the hot dog one?
What about the one with the hot dog? Yeah, it's so good. I love it. Anything else you want to add before the bourbon break?
I don't think so.
Let's hit that bourbon break. Welcome back to Must Have Missed It. So, James, how did you feel about Everything Everywhere All at Once, and how did this movie make you feel?
I went into this movie not really with any expectations. So yeah, I was pretty satisfied with it. It's a movie that is really, really fun. Don't try to nitpick it because you're gonna ruin it for yourself.
Yeah.
You have to realize that this is kind of an unprecedented territory. There's a lot of multiverse content out there, but I mean, in terms of what movies have been done, like this is not something that gets churned out every year.
Right.
There's not really a blueprint to it, I don't think.
Yeah.
So if you try to get too into it, you're gonna really ruin this movie for yourself. But I think out of all the movies we've done this season, like this is right up there with Knives Out in terms of how fun it was.
Yeah.
You just got to strap yourself in and go along for the ride. I was really surprised with how emotional this movie made me.
Right.
Even after you told me, like
I tried to warn you.
Yeah, like you're like, dude, I was a wreck. I was a mess,
but in the good way. Like this movie is very uplifting. Like if you're like me, you're going to cry, but like you're gonna feel so much better after you watch this movie. Like it's just a very, very joyful experience for me. Very cathartic. I think that's a more accurate term.
And that's the word you used. You said it was very cathartic. And I remember telling you, like, the day you told me that, I was like, I might watch it today. And I was not in a place where I probably should have watched it that day. So it's good I didn't. Even when I did watch it, when I thought I was emotionally prepared, I was not.
Right.
I don't think you can be. I mean,
it sneaks up on you.
The ending sequence of this movie, if it doesn't get you, then we're not the same.
Right. I've seen this movie 3 times now, and the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, that really blew me away. Like that hit deep. The emotional impact of this movie was very strong for me. And the second time I saw it, I was like, well, I guess it's probably because where I am right now, emotionally. And then the third time when I saw it, I was like, no, this movie just got it. I was like, it's just, this movie is just right up my alley.
I've watched a few things this past couple weeks, just casually.
Yeah.
That made me tear up, made me get emotional. So I knew going into it that it might be tough.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think even if, we weren't necessarily having rough weeks, that this movie would do it. It's got heart.
One of the debates I've been hearing kind of about this movie and its structure is were they trying to make a personal, familial story, but they needed mass market appeal, and that's why they went this route? Or is it that they had a multiversal idea and they needed a way to make it emotionally connect, so they added the familial element? And my answer is like, it doesn't fucking matter.
I was literally about to say, does it matter?
It does not matter at all to me, because it just works, regardless of what the approach was, or how you view what the approach was to this movie. I mean, it's going to work for you or it's not, and this movie just absolutely works for me. That's not to say that I think it's a perfect movie, and I'll get more into that in a little bit. But does it live up to the hype for you?
Sure.
What little hype you've heard around this movie?
Yeah.
I mean, 11 Oscar nominations. That's not nothing.
I was about to say, we'll have to see what awards it ends up getting. But I mean, for being nominated for pretty much every Oscar you could be nominated for, I don't know. My official answer is going to be undecided.
Yeah.
Because this movie is kind of silly.
For sure.
But
it's absurd.
For a silly movie, like, could you ask for better execution? So that's why I'm conflicted, because like, I'm not a silly movie guy. Like, there is a limit for me, but when you do it this well, like,
right,
that you can just kind of toss that aside. Like,
yeah.
it's no longer a silly movie. It's a good movie.
So I think the thing this reminds me the most of, not necessarily in concept, it's nothing like it in concept, but in the ways that it conveys tone, and other aspects. This movie reminds me a lot of The Good Place, where it's that really dumb, smart mix, and it just finds the perfect balance. And this is, like, to me, an elevated level of what The Good Place did so well, in terms of finding that balance between the dumbest shit you've ever seen, and also finding the heart in that, and the intelligence, the emotional intelligence especially. So this reminds me a lot of The Good Place in that regard. Like I said, plot wise, they're nothing similar necessarily, but in terms of tone, and I think what they're trying to accomplish with mixing tone and emotionality, I think that's probably, to me, its closest approximation.
Yeah, and it just gives you that feeling of, what am I watching?
Right.
And why is it making me feel
right?
this
Why is
way?
it making me feel this way? Yeah, I think the first time I was talking to you about this movie, I was talking about the ending sequence, and I was like, I can't believe that, like, I am crying during a sequence in which two characters are sticking their hot dog fingers into each other's mouth, and I'm bawling my fucking eyes out. Like, it's the most profound shit you've ever seen. It's not specifically that aspect of that scene, but
right.
yeah, just the way this movie balances the profound and the absurd is just, there are very few movies that are even trying to do what this movie's doing with regard to that. In terms of music and movie magic, what stood out with sound design, costume, set design, score, visuals?
Well, I mean, the costumes, out of this world.
Yeah,
I mean, they're fantastic, super creative, really random, but they all seem to fit the moment.
right.
The editing in this movie, as we already kind of touched on, is fantastic. I mean, what a lofty assignment for these people. And I mean, it's pretty seamless. For a movie like this, it's a tall task.
Yeah.
So I think they nailed that. Everything just looks, like I said, just seamless. Can't really find a whole lot where anything sticks out. It's like, oh, that looks out of place.
Yeah.
And for a movie like this, I think that speaks volumes. Music, kind of just scene specific, I guess.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
nothing really stood out majorly.
Yeah, no major bops in this movie necessarily, but it's another one of those movies where you don't think about the music because it matches the scenes so well for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few tracks that kind of stand out to me in the sense that they are jarring. But again, because the movie is meant to kind of be jarring, you know, you've got characters that are jumping between different universes, so it makes sense that there are times where the music is just really all over the place because the characters' mental states are all over the place. So it really works for the movie, but it's not really you know, it's not that John Williams shit where you're humming it when you're walking out of the theater.
Yeah.
It's more like that Knives Out kind of style music where you don't think about it because it's perfect for the scene, you know. Costumes, I think that was the biggest thing for me is, especially considering the budget of this movie being $14 million. I think what I heard was they had an average budget of $400 per outfit.
Damn.
Which is shockingly low for a major Hollywood movie, but also, you know, 36 costumes for Evelyn and 27 for Jobu and 11 for Waymond. You know, I'm sitting here like, Waymond wore 11 different outfits in this movie.
I can't even think of 3.
I think a lot of that made it on the cutting room floor because I feel like he was wearing basically the same thing the entire movie.
That green shirt and the khakis.
Right, yeah. It's like there's a very specific Waymond look in this movie, and I'm shocked that there were this many costumes. But, you know, Jobu, the variety of costumes, the K-pop costume, the Elvis costume, the wrestling attire, you know, just a lot of variety and a lot of creativity in the costuming. So fantastic in regard to that. I think the movie really stretched its budget with the sets, which some of them, if you were able to really see them closely, would probably look terrible. The prison set, for instance. But luckily, the way the shot is framed and the brevity of the shot makes it so you don't notice that it's just some fucking random place in Georgia where people are like, "Hey, you can come film here," or whatever. You know what I mean? So maximizing the budget, I think they did a really good job in this movie with that. You know, scenes like the rock scene that cost them fucking nothing, but you know, I mean, it's 3+ minutes of runtime in this movie, and it cost them absolutely nothing, and it really hits and the economy I think of producing this movie was just incredible. How many hours of footage they probably shot that never, or minutes at least, of footage that never saw the light of the day in this movie. Trusting to find it in the edit, because I think there's two ways to kind of, just like writing, there's 2 ways to approach making a movie, and that's just to get as much coverage as you can, and we'll figure it out in the edit. And then there's the very methodical, I'm going to storyboard every shot, and I'm editing for performances. Whereas in this movie, they weren't doing that. They were editing to find the story, to find the emotional connection and coherence and things like that. So it takes a special trust in your editors to make a movie like this work. And it's just props to the Daniels for realizing that they'd be able to find it in post. Anything else you want to add for music and movie magic?
I don't think so.
Was there anything in this movie that didn't work for you?
Not gonna lie, the hot dog stuff was it was hard for me to come around. The only thing that really like held it together for me was that it was just intentionally absurd,
Yeah.
and that the absurdity had a reason in the story, but it was almost too much.
Yeah.
Almost. Not quite.
See, I agree, but to me it was almost too much, but the emotionality to me is really what carried it. Like the absurdity only can take you so far.
Right.
In my opinion, it's if it hadn't been trying to tell a very emotional story about Evelyn and Deidre
or
in that
Jesus.
universe,
Yeah.
then it would have just been fucking stupid,
Yeah.
But because it's telling this incredibly emotional story about, these two lost people who have found each other, and how will they be able to stay together and work it out. If it was doing something else, then it would be it'd be way fucking too much. I would not understand why this was in the movie, but it's the emotional anchor, I think, that really makes it work.
I mean, kind of my favorite part is the 10,000 BC flashback.
Yeah.
I guess.
2001 reference. We'll get to that movie at some point. But yeah, the apes, that was ridiculous. The whole slapping on the thighs, basically the reenactment of the scene that Deidre and Evelyn watch on the screen in the laundromat. Like, that was just fucking weird, man.
Yeah.
It's so weird. I love this movie. That said, there's definitely parts where you kind of see the seams of this movie. I think the hot dog world stuff is a good example of that. You can definitely tell there was a much longer story that was being told in that universe, and a lot of it got cut. And there are other parts where I think they did a good job, all things considered. The 3-hour version of this movie was probably a fucking mess.
Right.
So good job to them finding something that hits all the emotional beats, and then also makes as much sense as this movie can fucking make, which is, that only goes so far. This is a silly fucking movie. I admit it. Like, it's not going to be for everybody. You have to have a certain sense of humor to really appreciate the absurdity of this movie. I think everybody can appreciate the emotional beats, but being able to get through the hot dog fingers shit to get to the emotional beats is going to be a lot for a lot of people, and I understand that. So I guess the other thing that didn't really work for me in this movie was the exposition heavy nature of the dialogue.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, I'd guess like 80% of this movie's dialogue is exposition, like explaining what's happening in the moment. Which, this is a really hard show don't tell kind of movie because of the nature of the story and the multiversal concept.
Right.
It's really hard to just show that without explaining it, and what verse jumping is without Alpha Wayman basically existing as an exposition machine. that's kind of what his role in this movie is just to explain what the fuck is happening in every scene, because otherwise you wouldn't know what is going on at all in this movie.
It's almost like he's just there to provide data.
Goonies stick together. But yeah, I mean, I think those are really the things in this movie that don't quite work for me. Like I said, there are people saying this is the greatest movie ever, and there are people saying this movie is absolute trash, and this movie is neither of those things.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the middle. Where in the middle it lies to you depends on your personal preference in movies. To me, it's closer to the best thing ever than it is to the worst thing ever, but I admit that this movie has flaws. Even still, let's show it some love and move into award season.
Yeah.
We have been thinking a lot about award season, and we have a couple of awards that we've been doing this season that we find one difficult to give out because One, because we choose movies. I generally try to choose movies that aren't terrible, that don't fucking suck,
Right.
that don't have characters that are fucking shitty or scenes that are fucking worthless. So trying to choose a least favorite scene, a least favorite character, a least favorite performance is just not an exercise we even want to engage in.
Yeah, sometimes it just takes you out of it. Like you feel like you have to find a negative when sometimes there's not.
I'm forcing myself to nitpick a movie that I probably chose because I really love it.
Yeah.
And I why do that? You know, we already have a category, I think, that kind of can sum up things like that. The category we just did of what doesn't work for you in this movie.
Yeah.
So we'll just kind of move those things into that category, and we'll replace those really negative awards with some more positive awards. So we've introduced kind of a movie-specific award. So for this one, we'll get to it when we get to it. We added an award for the best quote, hottest bars, the best quote from the movie, whatever we decide we want to choose for that. And then we have the category right in the feels. So it ties into emotionality. We don't want to really bog it down with a definition. So sometimes it'll be the scene that hit us the hardest, or the character arc that hit us the hardest, or sometimes it'll just be a thing in a movie that drew out a specific emotion that, you know, without that thing, you wouldn't have felt this in this movie. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a loose category for now. Maybe we'll be more specific as we go into season 2, but for now we're keeping it really loose. So we'll start at the top with favorite scene. James, what's your favorite scene in this movie?
This is tough because, like, there are a lot of candidates for this award.
Also, this is a movie where it's like, what is a scene? Because this crazy thing happens, and then this crazy thing happens, and this crazy thing happens, and like, where do scenes begin and end? It's really tough in this movie.
It is. I went with Evelyn's little specks of time speech.
Yeah.
It was just the one that made the most sense to me in this entire movie. That, you know, nothing matters, and we only get these little specks of time where anything makes sense. And when you really think about that, I mean, at the existential trains just start rolling, man.
Yeah.
And it just felt so real to me. Again, we talked about, you know, where we've been recently, and maybe that has some bearing on how it affected me, but it just really took me out of the movie and made me go, this is life.
Yeah.
This is a good metaphor for life. And if we could just cherish those moments, you know, that's really all we got.
Yeah. I mean,
it's terrifying and it's comforting.
When you think about it, those are the moments that you think about the most usually. I think most people do anyway. I definitely have a tendency to dwell on the one shitty thing that happened today rather than all the good stuff necessarily. But it's the moments where everything kind of came together, where that perfect memory you have with that one friend that, you know, maybe you don't talk to him anymore, but you still have this one perfect memory where, man, that time with such and such when this thing happened, and man, that was special, you know? So it's definitely a good way to approach thinking about things, for sure. So for my favorite scene, I went with the I guess the proper Jobu introduction, because you get the first one where Bagel Deidre announces her arrival. Very Thanos. Made me very much think of Infinity War, where Squidward is announcing Thanos, and he's like, "You now have the pleasure of being in the company of Thanos," whatever. It felt very much like that scene. But that's not the one I'm talking about. I'm talking about the one where you actually see Jobu's face and you realize it's Joy, and she murders all the police, and it's just a fucking incredibly creative scene and shows you the power of this character who is just bending reality to her will, playing with people, like toying with people, like it's all of this is a joke to her. It's organic line. I mean, just the way that scene is performed. It's you. That's a villain to fear for sure. Yeah. So I absolutely love that scene.
Also, like she does the little baby voice.
Oh yeah.
But then the second line, she just goes from like baby voice to completely like batshit.
Oh yeah.
Where I forget the exact line.
She's like, so you're gonna make me walk through you?
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, I can't let you do that either. And she's like, yeah, you can't.
Yeah, she's like, I don't think you understand, or something like that. Yeah, and she just like loses her shit.
There's that
like,
word again, or whatever she says. Yeah,
like, whoo.
Yeah,
it's some shit.
It escalates quickly. Yeah, great scene. Fantastic character. Favorite character?
My original choice. I'm gonna pivot off of it. I don't even know if I want to say it.
Was it Jobu?
No, it wasn't Jobu. I'll reveal it a little later on. My favorite character is going to be Waymond. Throughout the entire movie, he's just flows positivity.
Yeah.
He, even when he doesn't know what's going on, he's just always wanting to do the right thing. The divorce thing was kind of weird to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get some explanation of it towards the middle end of the movie, but from the beginning on up until you really get into their relationship, I thought it was kind of out of character for him.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, I think he's one of the only characters that tries to remain positive, and maybe it's a little bit of his naivete.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's Waymond.
I actually thought the divorce. So you mentioned that you get a little bit of the backstory on it.
Yeah.
He mentions there's the scene. I can't remember the specifics of the scene, but it's Waymond and Evelyn talking in the van, and they're having a conversation about the divorce. And he says that one of the guys that was in the chorus, was, brought it up to his wife, and them talking about the divorce finally got them to a place where they could move forward with their marriage.
So maybe he didn't always see it as an end game, just as a tool.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I viewed it, was because he says you only listen to me when it's an emergency. So he basically had to create an emergent situation to get her to finally listen to what he was trying to tell her. So it very much felt in character to me. I also have Waymond as my favorite character in this movie, and it's the weirdest thing. This movie does something that I don't think I've ever seen a movie do. It takes a character and gives him no arc and makes him the most important character in this movie. I have never seen anything like this. The trick that this movie pulls is fucking incredible, because instead of putting Waymond through the arc, they put you through the arc. They put the viewer through the arc. They change, instead of changing Waymond's perception of the world, they change your perception of Waymond and his very linear view of the world that does not change. He is the exact same person at the beginning of this movie that he is at the end. And I have never seen a movie that could pull off something like that. And I think it's an incredible achievement, and I just want to give props to the Daniels for being able to craft a movie where the guy is the exact same at the beginning of the in the end, and the way that you view him has completely changed. It's a phenomenal achievement. Also, what this character does for Asian male stereotypes in movies. The James Hong character, the Gong Gong character, is very much what you have seen for years and years and years out of Asian male characters in movies. The stoic, hard ass, doesn't show emotion, you know, all about honor and, that kind of thing. And you have the Wayman character in this movie just stomping all over those traditional stereotypes. And again, being the best character in this movie despite having no fucking arc. And it's incredible.
Well, his answer was a lot better than mine.
Favorite performance? Who you got?
Michelle Yeoh. I think, is it Stephanie Hsu, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Stephanie Hsu was amazing. The actor plays Wayne.
Ke Huy Quan.
Sorry. Yeah. I think he was amazing. But what a lot. I mean, that's a lot to ask to play the lead in this movie.
Yeah.
I really, really, really heavily considered giving it to Stephanie Hsu, because I think that when you break it down into individual scenes, like she's the one that really stood out to me.
Mm.
But like when I think about everything that Michelle Yeoh had to do,
Yeah.
I find it hard to not give it to her.
Yeah.
But I mean, pick one. I don't think there are a lot of.
It's
I
tough.
mean, you can pick an actor in this movie that has a prevalent role and say that's the best performance.
Yeah.
Like they all kind of kill it.
Yeah. The reason that I wanted to get rid of some of our season 1 category or awards and move into some of the awards that we had already talked about having in season 2 is the Jamie Lee Curtis performance in this movie, which I mostly love, but there were times where I was like, do I love it? Like I feel like I'm forcing myself to think negatively about a performance that I mostly appreciate.
Yeah.
So across the board, yeah, the performances in this movie are really solid. I mean, even, smaller parts like Jenny Slate is really funny as Debbie the dog mom.
Yeah.
Fits her perfectly. I think all three of the leads are incredible in this movie. Ke Huy Quan, the comeback story of the millennium. I mean, just wow. To not do this for almost 20 years and decide, you know what, let me give it another chance. And you come back and you do this. This is your first fucking thing that you do. Just amazing. Has some of the funniest lines in this movie. He is the kind of moral center of this movie. At the same time, Michelle Yeoh is the anchor of this movie. Her performance has to be incredibly believable. You have to believe her world weariness, and you also have to believe that she is hopeful enough that she can pull her daughter back off the edge in the climax of this film. And she does all of it remarkably. But to me, the best performance in this movie was Stephanie Hsu. It was just...
I'm glad you did it. I'm glad one of us did it.
Just an incredible performance. The emotionality of the Joy character it hits every single time. You feel how disaffected she feels, how alienated she feels from her parents, how misunderstood she feels. And then the Jobu character is just one of the most fun characters. I mean, I don't subscribe to the worldview, or I try not to anyway. Sometimes I get dragged into the bagel, but I try not to. But it's just such a fun character and performance that you can't not appreciate it.
Yeah.
and it was the performance in this movie that brought the most smiles, I think, to my face, and that I think I was overall the most impressed with. Who is your coolest hang in this movie?
Becky, and she's half Mexican. just so you know. I just think she's kind of the most innocent person in this movie, man.
Yeah.
Like, she's just there to help.
Mm-hmm.
She's not trying to hurt anyone. She just wants to fit in. She's trying to get in good with this family. She loves Jobu. What's her actual name?
Joy.
Shit, Joy. She loves Joy, and there was no part in this movie that made me believe that Becky wouldn't be a cool person to hang out with, man. Like, what is she doing wrong?
Yeah. I went with probably, I guess, the chalk pick for this movie. I went with Waymond.
He was
Just seems
there.
the most obvious choice. Gets along with everybody. Is the type of person that is not going to choose conflict. They are going to try to figure out another way to do conflict resolution, which I appreciate. Just approaches life with a joy that I find aspirational. So, yeah, I got Waymond. Who is your toughest hang in this movie?
It's Deidre.
Deidre. Yeah.
Specifically, like, the main universe Deidre.
Yeah.
Like the IRS worker.
Fuck, man.
Holy shit.
Bagel Universe Deidre is way worse.
Hey, like, I don't want to hang out with that one either. But yeah, man, this whole movie, like, just as a character, I really, really, really like Bagel Deidre.
Yeah.
But as a hang,
yeah,
no,
thank you.
No, not at all. I want to be as far away from her as I can.
That's who I had initially. I changed it right before we started recording. I agree 100%. Deidre.
Yeah.
just seems like a lot. Oh man, a lot.
Now she does have a soft spot,
yeah,
as we see.
hot dog finger, like, Deidre.
To get there, like,
yeah, it's a lot of work. Yeah, definitely a very thick exterior to crack through. But my toughest hang in this movie is Debbie the dog mom.
That was
you.
Who I had before I changed it to Deidre.
There's no way, man. I just couldn't. Like, the people that treat their dogs like their actual fucking children, like, hey, try having an actual child, because it's way I have a dog and an actual child, and one of them's a lot easier to fucking manage than the other one, I'll tell you that.
And this is coming from, like, major dog lovers. Like, don't even get it twisted. Like, we love our dogs.
Yeah, we love our dogs, but, like, it's not having a child. And anybody that compares it is obviously not the parent of an actual fucking human child.
Have you ever left your kid in a kennel?
Right.
For 8 hours?
Yeah. You're like, I'm gonna go on vacation. What daycares take kids for a week?
Right.
You know? You have a cage you can sleep in, right?
Here's its food and its leash.
Right.
Figure it out. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I mean, I have my dog's like 5 or 6. I can leave him at home all day. It'll be fine. Imagine leaving a 5-year-old child at home all day.
Some real ET shit.
Yeah, what are you coming home to? Who even knows? Top Bop. What do you have for Top Bop, James?
I scanned through like 40-odd songs in the soundtrack, man.
It's tough. It's a tough Top Bop movie.
Yeah, like we said, or like you said, it's more of the music that accompanies the scene and how it fits together. But I went with Specks of Time, which, is my favorite scene.
Yeah.
It's got some really nice woodwinds.
Yeah.
Really nice build up. I'm really bullshitting through this, man. Like, there wasn't a whole lot that stood out to me. I listened to about 7 or 8 of them, and I was like, "Hey, this one sounds pretty good." Oh, it was also in my favorite scene. Let's go with that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It wasn't a whole lot. What do you got?
I have a favorite. I'll get to that in just a second. My honorable mention is going to be Opera Fight. It is the song that the Michelle Yeoh, the blind singer character, sings during the fight, where she taps into that, where she, verse jumps into that version of herself. I think the vocal is really good. It's a good balance with the music, and it just suits the scene very well. And it's not the kind of music, you look at all the other action scenes, the fight scenes in this movie, and the music is kind of similar. It's kind of
It's kind of secondary.
kind of like it's kind of like break beats and EDM and like that kind of.
Gotcha.
It's all stylistically very similar, and this was a break from a lot of those tracks or that style of music for the fight scenes. So I appreciated that. But my top bop in this movie, and I think it should, I don't know how this isn't everybody's top bop in this movie, is "Now We're Cooking," which is the song that Chad and Raccacoonie sing to each other while they're cooking in the kitchen, and it's just fucking great. We are family culinarily. The "We're Mammals Making Gravy" line is just fucking great. It's beautiful. It's fucking Randy Newman doing a riff on Ratatouille. So like, what's not to love? It's fucking great, and it should be everybody's top bop in this movie. So the movie-specific category or award that we're doing for this movie, Michelle Yeoh, lots of action in this movie, so we decided to go with favorite fight scene. James, what do you have?
So there are so many good ones to pick from, man. Like, for real, this was really tough.
Yeah.
I had originally chosen this one and wrestled with it because I was like, oh, you only think this because it's the first one you liked. But no, man, like the fanny pack fight scene
That's great.
is fucking dope. Not only when you're watching it for the first time, there's like such a high level of suspense because you have no idea what's going on.
Right.
Why is he eating the chapstick?
Right. Yeah.
What is about to happen? What's he gonna pull out of the fanny pack? And then like, no, the fanny pack is the fucking weapon. There's even a spot. There's even a part where the camera is fixed onto the fanny pack as it's spinning on the ground as he's tripping some of the people.
Yep.
That is just fucking dope and pretty innovative and like you mentioned that they wanted Jackie Chan for that role, like fucking obviously when you watch this scene, but it's executed so well. It kind of is the first time in this movie where you realize what you're signing up for.
Yeah.
It's so fun, creative, and it's a fucking fanny pack.
The last thing you would expect to be a weapon in a fight scene, that's for sure.
And
I guess in this movie, the second to last thing you would expect to be a weapon in a fight scene after a fucking dog.
Or dildos. Or,
yeah.
You know.
Dildos are up there.
Man, like I want to pick every fight scene in this movie for this award.
Yeah.
I just want to say all of them. It's really tough. They're all really good. What do you got?
I actually, as my honorable mention, I have the fanny pack fight. It's funny when you were talking about the Jackie Chan thing. I watched this movie before I did any research on it, so when I saw this fight, I was like, this feels like a Jackie Chan fight. And then I did the research and I was like, okay, yeah, they probably wrote this before they changed, before Jackie Chan agreed or, wasn't able to do it. It feels so much like something out of a Jackie Chan movie. So that was my first thought as well when I saw that. My favorite fight scene is the Jobu introduction fight scene with the police. The dildo beatdown, the pile driver, the salsa dance. I mean, again, you see the power of this character, and You really just don't understand. Evelyn stands no chance. She is fucked, man. Because Jobu is going to walk right through her. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that fight scene. I also, the opera fight scene, the one I mentioned earlier, is another really good fight scene. And I also want to show some love to the I'm learning to fight like you. Empathy fight, I guess, for lack of a better term. Yeah, that's really good fight scene as well. They're all good. They're all good.
There's not a bad one.
Our next new category is hottest bars. So your favorite quote from this movie, James. What are your hottest bars from Everything Everywhere All at Once?
My hottest bar is from Waymond. And it's a bit aspirational. The best part of me identifies with this quote.
Mm-hmm.
The best part of me doesn't always show up, but it's when I choose to see the good side of things, I'm not being naive. It's strategic and necessary. It's how I learned how to survive through everything. And that, like I said, it's just kind of aspirational for me. Like, I am a very negative person to my core. Like, I don't want to be, but that's just how I am inherently. Like, I think that bad things are going to happen. I think that I'm bad. But when I try to fight back, that's who I am.
Yeah.
I am this positive, how can I look at this situation and take the best from it? How can I look at this situation and compare it to someone else's? And from that, see how much better I have it.
Yeah.
How can I remain positive even when that seems like the hardest, most impossible thing to do?
Yeah.
So that quote to me was just, it was perfect. Strategic and necessary.
Yep.
Those two words with the meaning of this quote, like that's it right there. It's strategic. It's something you have to plan out. You have to do it. It's necessary.
So this is the award that I was most certain we would have the same answer for. I am completely unsurprised to find that we essentially had the same answer. But while you dropped your favorite line, I'm going to drop the entire verse.
Gotcha.
So he starts by saying, "You think I'm weak, don't you? All of those years ago when we first fell in love, your father would say that I was too sweet for my own good. Maybe he was right. You tell me that it's a cruel world and we're all just running around in circles. I know that. I've been on this earth just as many days as you have. When I choose to see the good side of things, I'm not being naive. It is strategic and necessary. It's how I've learned to survive through everything. I know you see yourself as a fighter. Well, I see myself as one too. This is how I fight." Holy shit. Holy shit. This is how I fight line, that was the shit that really hit me hard, like the idea that there's another way to approach it, you know what I mean? Like that's something I have to remind myself of constantly, because I'm a rushed action kind of person. I try not to be. I try to be very considerate. I'm very considerate with words, but not always with actions. I try to just, like, how can I solve this right now?
Yeah.
Not what is the correct solution? Like, what's a solution I can put into place right now?
Yeah.
And the, sometimes you have to think, and you have to be strategic in that way, and that's something, like you said, it's aspirational, and I found that quote to be the most aspirational quote in this movie. So yeah, definitely not surprised we had the same quote essentially there.
Yeah.
right in the feels. Like we said, this is one that we didn't want to kind of define too specifically. So, what is your award winner for right in the feels, James?
So for this movie, I kind of broke it down to a line, but it's more about, the feeling,
Yeah.
that it gave me. And that's Evelyn saying, I always wanted to be right here with you.
Yeah.
Not sure I can get through this one
Yeah.
without getting
scene.
super emotional, but
Yeah.
just joy thinking that her mother completely disapproves of her
Mm-hmm.
because of her sexuality, and that she doesn't see her for who she is, and Evelyn trying to just desperately trying to let her know that it doesn't those things don't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, that she just wants those little specks of time with her.
Yeah.
And I think that through all of our relationships that we have, we get lost in what we want people to be, what our expectations of people are, how what we say is going to affect them,
Mm-hmm.
how what they say is going to affect us, and sometimes we just forget the reasons that we even seek out these relationships with people, and that's you just want to be there with them.
Yeah.
You enjoy their company, you love them, you would do anything for them, and all the little shit doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Because like you said earlier, you're gonna remember the really good moments.
Mm-hmm.
You're hopefully not gonna look back on it and think, oh well, she was this or he was this and I didn't really like that. You're gonna look back and be like, I really enjoyed being in the moment with that person.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons it gave me feels, but
Before I forget what I want to say.
no, go ahead. I'm trailing.
Yeah. Tying into what you're saying, one of the things I wanted to talk about with this movie is this movie presents nihilism as a thing that is attractive. Like not in the way that you should be attracted to it, or hey, this is a good way to live your life as a nihilist, but in the sense that it's kind of a stage that any emotionally healthy person kind of has to pass through. I was talking about this a little to you earlier, and I'm of the opinion that existentialism and nihilism, while they are alternate paths, they start at the same place. They start at life is fucking weird and hard, and we're probably never going to understand it. And you have to take the first few steps, whether you're going to walk the nihilism path or the existentialism path, and they're the first steps. They're the same. And then you have to make the choice of how you're going to approach that realization. And I really appreciate that this movie treats that as a necessary step, a thing that you have to understand to be able to move past. Is that like, yeah, man, it's fucking dark, and sometimes you don't know what the point is, and it's you have to make the choice to try to find a purpose regardless, to try to find a meaning in what seems like a pointless exercise and a monotonous routine and all these things, and find what is the thing that allows you to move forward and approach happiness and find a reason to keep doing it every day. And I appreciate this movie doesn't treat that as a stigma or a thing to be shamed. It understands that to get to a healthy understanding of metaphysics, you have to walk that path at some point. So props. But my choice for right in the feels, like I said, I'm keeping this really loose on the definition, is Raccacoonie, which is a bit that brings me so much fucking joy. It's completely irrational. And I don't even mean the bit where you see Raccacoonie and the Chad interaction, all that stuff. I just mean the I guess the not Mandela effect thing that Evelyn does, but just the malapropism kind of like the tie-in of all those.
Don't you
those
mean
things,
Ratatouille?
all those things where she conflates it to be a raccoon, and like it's just so funny, and it brings me so much joy. And this movie would not be the same to me without this specific thing in it. So no, it's not the scene that makes me most emotional or the plot line that gives me the most feels, but it's just a thing in this movie that just. This movie would not be the same, and I would not feel the same way about this movie without this thing in it. So, Raccacoonie forever. Let's go.
Yeah, on my second watch, when he's like, if you don't step it up, Chad's gonna take some of your shifts, and he just winks, and you see that little tail. I was so amused. I was like, oh, that's great. No, but Raccacoonie, the scene where she's. Yeah, that's fucking good stuff.
Yeah. Best fit. Oh man, so many choices for best fit.
A lot of choices.
James, what you got?
I went with the kind of I think you referred to it as the K-pop Jobu outfit.
Yeah.
She's got I think it's kind of tie-dye. I can't quite remember the colors, but very bright colored kind of hoodie jumper kind of combo. It's got like teddy bears on the arm, the sleeves. I just thought it was just really unique, as a lot of the costumes are.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the one that I was drawn to.
I have it as my number 4.
Damn. Okay.
Like I said, a lot of really good choices in this movie. I'll put that at number 4. Number 3, this is probably the most basic pick. I'm going to choose movie premiere Evelyn. Evelyn Kwan at the premiere of the weird-ass movie where she dies kind of like in the middle of the movie.
Right.
But the dress she was wearing in that was spectacular. I mean, she looked absolutely fucking amazing in that scene. And then next I have Chaos Jobu. I guess Jumbled Jobu, whatever you want to call it. Her look at the very end of the movie. She's kind of wearing aspects of every costume she's been wearing throughout the entire movie. And she has the fucking face paint is just so good. It's really the face paint that makes the costume for me. But number 1 is the Jobu first appearance, not Jobu issue number 1, but Jobu first appearance, where she gets the introduction, the Thanos introduction scene,
like the baby bonnet. Look.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god, man, the all plaid fucking look with the granny fucking bonnet mask sort of thing is just fucking iconic. I absolutely love that outfit.
It reminded me like almost something out of like Umbrella Academy. It was just like so weird. And like but
it gave me 12 Monkey. This is like the absurd version of like 12 Monkey vibes. So I really appreciated it.
Please watch 12 Monkeys.
12 Monkeys.
You need someone to talk to.
It's on Hulu. Watch it on Hulu. 12 Monkeys. But it gave me 12 Monkey vibes, and it wasn't when I saw it in the movie, it didn't stand out as much. I kind of cheated a little bit, and I was just kind of going through a photo gallery of different looks from the movie, and when I saw the costume, it wasn't even being worn by anybody. When I saw just the costume, I was like, "Oh my god, that's it! That's fucking sweet." So that's how I came to that. weird time. Not so much on this one, I guess. I actually expect us to have the same pick here. I would be surprised if we didn't again. Who is your John C. Reilly pick? What actor would you replace with John C. Reilly in this movie?
So I don't know what his actual character name is. I came up with this on my own. Bald butt plug security guard.
The one that gets beat, I thought,
With
to death by the dildos earlier in the movie, but I guess survives.
I look, to each his own.
Yeah.
I cannot pass up an opportunity to see John C. Reilly doing a full spread eagle jump and landing on a butt plug. If you can live without that, by all means, I can't.
I have chosen to live in an alternate universe, I guess. My John C. Reilly pick is Rick. A little basic, I think, but he gave me the perfect John C. for this movie vibes, because it's a movie that is kind of overwhelmed by or dominated by its leads. So it just trying to pick a pretty small part for John C. in this movie, and Rick was kind of like the immediate choice for me when I first saw him.
He was the first. Yeah,
your original idea.
It was hard not to.
Yeah, just the kind of creepy old man vibes that he gives, like that kind of suits, I think, where John C. Reilly is in his career right now. So I'd love to see it. Yeah. Zombie apocalypse survival team. James, recap your team for us.
Professor Hagrid, E.T., Jim.
He cleans up unicorn poop. That's what Hagrid does at Hogwarts. He cleans up unicorn poop.
I also have E.T., the extraterrestrial, Jim from 28 Days Later, Marta from Knives Out, the one and only Neytiri from Avatar, Theo from Die Hard, Jack.
Fucking baby. It's a fucking baby, people. Like, are you not paying attention to the fact that James has a fucking baby on his team? Sorry, James, go ahead.
From The Incredibles, Kiwoo from Parasite, Chairman Fred Hampton, rest in peace. And as long as we don't have the same answer and have to coin flip for it, I have Juju Chewbacca, Jobu Tupaki.
Well, I hope you brought a coin. Because if you thought I wasn't choosing Jobu in this movie, you were clearly not paying attention.
Come on.
I hope you have an alternate. I do have an alternate, and I mentioned earlier that I said a few minutes ago on this podcast that I thought Hottest Bars would be the most likely that we would have the same award winner, but actually it was the Zombie Apocalypse Survival Team was the one where I was like, there's no fucking way that we don't have the same.
It was almost an
character
E.T. Like,
yeah,
like
I mean the power level. Yeah, it's just it's not even fair. It's so absurd, and I better fucking win this coin toss.
So I don't know who was the last to actually do the flip.
I think you were the last to call, so I think it's my call and your flip.
All right, we are ready, and call it.
Heads. I pick tails every other time.
It is flipping. It is bouncing.
It's gone poorly for me. So.
It is spinning. It is heads.
And Jobu Tupaki comes home to my team.
Damn it.
I'll reveal who my alternate was. So when I was thinking about Jobu, I was thinking this is like really an all or nothing kind of pick. Like it is, you're really putting everything on the line by making the selection.
Yeah.
So I went with that pick on opposite ends of the spectrum. So Jobu was my choice, and then Waymond was my alternate. Like Waymond at some point is going to compromise the safety of my team, not as severely as Jobu is almost certainly going to compromise the safety of my team, which is just like I don't fucking care about any of you and murders everyone.
Yeah.
So it's a risk, but I guess I was taking a risk either way, and one character's ceiling is significantly higher than the others. So I went with ceiling over floor here, and yeah, Jobu is my choice. Who's your alternate?
Well, I am very disappointed. I really wanted Juju Tabuti, but
Jobu Tabaki.
yeah, that would have been nice to have old Tabaki. Not only do I have a baby, but now I have a raccoon on my team.
No,
because
fuck.
my alternate was Raccacoonie.
Oh man, fuck! I didn't even consider Raccacoonie.
I mean, look, you can put him right on your head, and he'll teach you how to do shit. I don't know if his skills are limited to just cooking, but
I don't know that we ever set parameters for anything like this, but I would like to take this moment on the podcast to propose a trade. Michael Taylor and Jobu Tupaki for E.T. and Raccacoonie.
Whoa here.
Jobu.
Because Michael can drive. I'm not sure if Raccacoonie can drive.
He can drive a person. If he can drive a person, he can drive a car.
All right, let's see. The first ever must have missed it zombie team apocalypse survival trade. Kind of like it. Michael Taylor and
E.T.
E.T.
for Jobu Tupaki. Well, sorry.
Wait, I have
Jobu Tupaki and Michael Taylor for E.T. and Raccacoonie.
I don't know, man.
How about this? You think about it, and when we do our recap episode for season 1, we'll decide. We'll have our final teams all together then, and you can make your choice then.
All right. I'm gonna consider it because like Jobu. Ooh.
I mean, you're talking power set, man. Like it's pretty much whatever you can imagine.
Yeah, but then I gotta think about the possibility that our two teams run into each other in the zombie apocalypse, and one of them has to go. So, a lot to be thought about.
Yeah, but again, Jobu Tupaki can just walk through anybody. So there's that. I'm just fucking Raccacoonie. I'm so upset with myself. Oh, so Jobu Tupaki will join my team of Buckbeak from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Selena from 28 Days Later, Michael Taylor from E.T., the incomparable Benoit Blanc from Knives Out, Jake Sully, a.k.a. White Navi Jesus from Avatar, Coral from Die Hard, Human Shield Violet Parr from The Incredibles, Forgist, is that a word?
Forgerist.
Incredible actor Ki Jung from Parasite, and Judy Harmon from Judas and the Black Messiah. So, whether the trade goes through or not, I'm feeling good about my team. It'll be fine. We're competing. We're competing for a championship either way. It's just a little more volatile with my team as it's currently constructed than it could be if this trade goes through. We'll move on to the last category award. Who do you have for MVP?
So I was like, this one or this one, this one or this one. I still can't decide, man.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll steer you in the direction. Yeah. I have Daniels.
That was one of the choices.
Yeah, it's a really hard one not to choose them. To show a studio this script and have them be like, yeah, let's make this movie.
I'm on board.
You have to be able to present it in a way that a studio is going to be like, okay, I see what you're trying to do here, and I'm down with it. Let's do it. Again, their previous movie was about a guy who finds a corpse on an island and uses the farting corpse as a speedboat to save himself. I mean, that's the plot. That's not what the movie's about.
Right,
but that's the
right.
plot of the movie. And they were like, yo, let's give them more money. You know what I mean? So, like, obviously, like, these are guys that understand what they are trying to do and what the vision is. And it's, I don't know, it's quite an achievement to me to make a movie that the plot is, who fucking cares? You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the plot doesn't matter in this movie, but I don't think it's kind of ET-ish in the sense that, like, plot is very secondary to the emotional beats of this movie. And, you know, does it have way too much exposition? It fucking does. You know, does that matter to me? Not at all. Not in the fucking slightest. I enjoy this movie from start to finish. I will probably watch this movie again several times this year. I see this movie just being one of those movies that, like, I need to feel a certain way. I'm going to watch fucking Everything Everywhere All at Once. And it's so good to me. And I just don't see how this movie even comes into existence, much less turns out the way it does without the direction of Daniels. So who was your other choice?
That definitely was one of them. Michelle Yeoh was my other one.
Yeah.
I really want to say Daniels.
Yeah.
Just because hearing you validate all the reasons that I wanted to say it, you know, but also Michelle Yeoh, like, I'll admit and hope this is probably not a surprise to anyone, but, like, this is the first thing I've seen her in.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to compare her performance to.
Right.
And she stuck out of anyone else in this movie to me. So, like you said, really hard not to give it to Daniels. I mean, these guys are like, give me an apple, I'll make you an airplane. Like, they just seem like they can take anything and just make it meaningful and impactful. Really hard not to give it to them, but for the sake of diversity, I'll give some shout out to Yeoh. And she just crushed this character that is just so complex. Like, at least with Jobu, like, I don't think there's a whole lot of time before you kind of realize what the character is.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, at literal time, sure, but, you know, you get a few scenes before you're like, oh, Jobu's her daughter. Like, Evelyn has to literally go through it scene by scene with her evolution. So, yeah, Daniels, Michelle Yeoh, the combination of the two, whatever you want my answer to be, it's that. But yeah, what a fun fucking movie, man.
Yeah. What really impressed me with Yeoh in this movie is, you know, I've seen her in a couple movies prior to this. She was in a James Bond movie, Die Another Day, I think it's the name of the James Bond movie she's in. And, you know, it's a James Bond movie. It's a 90s James Bond movie, so it's pretty limited in terms of character development, things like that, and what she gets to do. You know, had still progressed a lot from what it was in the 60s, 70s, 80s. So don't get me wrong, it's still a better role than she would have gotten as late as the 80s. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I mean, just fantastic performance in that movie. What really surprised me in this movie was how funny she was. Mm-hmm. I didn't know Michelle Yeoh had that comic timing. The line about following your destiny or just lying here, and she's like, I just want to lie here.
Yeah.
It's so fucking funny. I just don't.
It's great.
Her timing, her delivery is just absolutely perfect. And you know, it's a weird movie because she drops her and Ki Hai Kwan kind of drop in and out of Cantonese and into English throughout the movie, like kind of in the middle of thoughts, like they'll drop it in and out of languages, and it flows so naturally. So it's a amazing performance. Like I said, it's very much the anchor of this movie is the believability of that performance and the emotionality of that performance and the relatability of the character. And she does a fantastic job. Like I said, I went with Daniels, but I wouldn't have an argument with Michelle Yeoh as the MVP or even Stephanie Hsu or even Ki-Hai Kwan. I think any of them were worthy candidates for this award. So I guess I'm mostly just happy to be talking about a movie where there are so many people made such significant contributions to the success of the film that any of them could be MVPs.
Yeah.
So everything, everywhere, all at once. James, would you watch this movie again?
Maybe in another life. No, yeah, for sure, man. Like you said, probably would take a specific emotion for me to really want to.
Yeah.
But definitely one that would be on the rotation, man, when you need that little something.
Yeah.
Glad I'm aware that it exists. Without this podcast, without what we're doing, no fucking chance I'd ever see this movie. So really glad. Yeah.
I'm glad that we exist in a universe where we do this podcast together and I make you watch movies.
Yeah.
And we're glad you exist in this universe with us, where you have certainly already subscribed to the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's audio or visual. We don't really care. Just give us those clicks, man. It's all about those clicks in every universe. We need those clicks.
Even your stationary rock universe
that will have you bawling. You can send your emails to musthavemissedit@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at musthavemissedit. Follow us on Instagram at musthavemissedit. We are still on TikTok. Again, doing nothing, sitting there like rocks, but we're there. Come follow us. We appreciate everybody for listening to the podcast and watching. We will see you soon with a wrap up for season 1, and then we're going to call it quits and screw you guys. You figure it out for a couple weeks until we come back for season 2.
Yeah, we might never podcast again.
That seems unlikely.
Yeah, I'm lying.
We'll see you soon. In this universe or another, we'll see you soon.